When the light turns on, it doesn't wait for your permission. It doesn't ask if you're ready to see, or if now is a good time. It simply arrives. And with it, the illusion starts to thin. Not every light soothes. Some lights don't guide you forward. They burn through the fabric you used to cover what you couldn't name. They expose what you labeled healed, just so you wouldn't have to look again. April 24 doesn't begin with noise. It begins with sharpness. Not the kind that wounds, but the kind that cuts through the fog so cleanly it leaves no room to pretend you didn't notice. Venus shines at her brightest, but not to beautify. She reflects what you've outgrown. Neptune murmurs behind the moon, stirring emotion you can't quite place. And Mercury offers you logic too elegant to trust, reasoning that almost convinces you to return to something your soul has already walked away from. This isn't a day for meaning, it's a day for truth. And the truth has been right in front of you the whole time. There are some nights that don't let you rest, not because of anxiety or distraction, but because something deeper has arrived. April 24 is not interested in how you feel, it's interested in what you carry, and it's going to bring it to the surface, whether you're ready or not. These early hours don't ask questions, they begin the excavation. 12 o'clock, 3 o'clock, a.m. The veil whispers. You're not dreaming, you're downloading. This is not ordinary rest. This is the hour when the boundary softens between the self you walk around in and the self that remembers everything. The veil isn't just thin, it's active. It presses against your sleep like a hand against glass, letting things through in fragments. Not all at once, not in narrative, but enough to stir what's been sealed. Everything you tried to forget, everything you thought you outgrew, drips back in, not as thoughts, but as sensations, faces, flashes, unfinished feelings. They arrive without context, and that's intentional. This hour doesn't care about clarity, it cares about contact. If you wake with your heart racing, don't reach for your phone. Don't write. Don't talk. This is not a moment for output. It's for imprinting. You're being shown something, but not with language. Your mind is not invited into this process. It's happening deeper than thought. You might feel like you've forgotten something urgent, like a truth was just out of reach, like your entire body is on alert but can't find the danger. That's not a mistake. That's transmission. Stay where you are, breathe slowly, lie still. Do not interpret. Do not translate. Just let it land. There are instructions being written into your nervous system that you won't recognize until later. But when the moment arrives, you'll act from instinct and realize you already knew. That knowledge is being encoded here, now, in the hours when your defenses are down and your inner gateways are wide open. Don't resist it. Let it write itself into you, not with urgency, but with reverence. What returns now doesn't want to haunt you. It wants to complete its message. 3 o'clock, 5 o'clock, IEM. The soul reorders itself. This isn't insomnia. This isn't hormonal. This isn't bad sleep hygiene. This is the soul-shifting furniture inside you. These are the hours when something begins to rearrange itself from within, not gently, not neatly, but deliberately. You may wake suddenly, not just alert, but overwhelmed. Your chest might feel heavy, you may feel heat, nausea, tension in places you didn't even know held memory. You might not cry, but you'll feel like you're on the edge of something that wants to rise. Let it rise. In traditional medicine, this is the liver hour, when the body begins to process stored emotional waste. Rage that never got voiced, sadness you never admitted, old decisions that built quiet resentments you learned to live around. This isn't about release. This is about confrontation. What comes up now isn't new, it's long-standing, but the difference is, now you're present enough to feel it, to stay, to not numb out. That's the test. You're not anxious. You're detoxing misalignment. And it hurts because something is unclenching, something that's held on for years without your permission, something that learned to shape itself around silence, and now, in this strange pre-dawn hour, is unraveling. Not for drama, but for restoration. Let your body take the lead. Don't ask for answers. Don't push the feelings down or try to dress them with meaning. This isn't about insight. This is about movement. The subtle shaking that happens when energy trapped in memory finally gets permission to leave. You don't have to understand why. You don't have to give it a name. You just have to stay long enough to not interrupt it again. If tears rise, don't apologize. If nothing comes, trust that something still shifted. These hours aren't performative. They're private. You're not doing this for validation. You're doing this to clear a space inside yourself that has been waiting years to breathe. And you may not feel instant relief, but you will feel the difference in the days ahead, in how you speak, how you move, how you say no, how you stop explaining what doesn't need defending. Because something subtle but sovereign is being restored right now. You're being reordered from the inside out, quietly, powerfully, without needing anyone else to notice. And that's what makes it sacred. 5 o'clock, 7 o'clock, IEM. The first mirror opens. The light doesn't ask for permission, it arrives. And with it, the first mirror opens. Not the kind that flatters, but the kind that tells the truth without blinking. Sunrise comes with questions, not answers. There's a sense of order, of clarity, of sudden insight, but it might feel too perfect, too smooth, like the voice of a version of you that no longer exists, but still remembers how to sound convincing. That's the first test. You'll feel pulled toward motion, an idea will feel ripe, a conversation will demand resolution, a decision will seem obvious, but if it comes quickly, without friction, without pause, it might not be guidance, it might be memory. Not intuition, but echo. Clarity that comes this fast is often recycled. It's dressed in confidence but stitched from the old scripts. And the mirror that opens now doesn't reflect the future. It shows the temptation to walk back into what you've already outgrown. That's why if you feel a strong urge to act this morning, stop, take one breath, then another. Before you speak, decide, or return, ask yourself, who is leading this choice? Is it the self you've worked to become, or the self who learned to survive? This mirror isn't obvious. It doesn't scream, don't. It simply reflects what you're leaning toward. And you'll know if it's outdated, not because it looks wrong, but because it feels tight, unnatural, just a little too easy to fall back into. Sometimes the past doesn't beg you to return. It just waits for a pause long enough for you to mistake familiarity for peace. You've been here before. That's why this moment feels stable, but the question is it still yours? If your body contracts, listen. If your breath shortens just as you say yes, honor that shift. The body holds memory more honestly than the mind, and in this hour the body will tell you whether the direction you're facing is alignment or return. This is not a warning, it's a mirror, and you can choose to meet it fully awake. Don't reject the clarity, just question its source. Don't chase the momentum, just ask who it serves. Because not every open door is a path. Some are just mirrors, waiting to see if you still mistake movement for growth. So as the sun rises, let it illuminate you, but not push you. Let the mirror speak, but don't run. This hour shows you everything, but only you can decide what still belongs. 7 o'clock, 9 o'clock, AM. False logic speaks clearly. Mercury moves fast today, but fast doesn't always mean clear, and clear doesn't always mean true. You'll notice it the moment you begin to organize your thoughts. Plans feel sharp, direction seems obvious. Conversations click into place like puzzle pieces you'd forgotten how to arrange. Things start to make sense again. You feel focused, efficient, resolved. But underneath that clarity is a subtle hollowness. A quiet voice that doesn't speak in words, it speaks in tension. You might not even recognize it until later, when the plan you committed to so confidently no longer feels like yours. That's the trap. Logic that arrives too perfectly timed, not because it's evil, but because it's scripted. These aren't new insights, these are rehearsed responses, habits that dress themselves as breakthroughs, old mental structures reactivating, eager to re-establish control. False logic doesn't feel wrong, it feels clean, too clean. It slips in without resistance and convinces you that your sudden urge to return to that relationship, that goal, that old rhythm is growth. But your body will know. Your breath will hesitate before your words do. You'll feel a slight dissonance between what you're saying and what you're living. So ask carefully, is this decision truly mine, or is it just a habit dressed as purpose? What you're hearing might be precise, articulate, empowering, but if it lacks soul, if it doesn't move something deeper than your thoughts, it's not guidance, it's memory, and memory is loud today. Mercury is a genius at solving the wrong problem beautifully, at making sense of what you were never meant to carry again. So just because it clicks, doesn't mean it belongs. Today's clarity requires scrutiny, because false logic doesn't lie, it just leaves something out. The nuance, the intuition, the feeling you chose to ignore in favor of finishing the sentence. Don't finish the sentence today. Pause mid-thought. Let the breath come back. Let the silence challenge what sounded brilliant 5 minutes ago. Because if it's truly yours, it won't need to rush to convince you. It will settle in your chest like something ancient and true, not urgent, just undeniable. 9 o'clock, 12 o'clock p.m. The Venus flare. Venus reaches maximum brightness, and with it comes a revelation you didn't ask for. It doesn't warm you, it exposes you. Today, beauty doesn't come as comfort, it arrives as confrontation. What once felt soft, romantic, fulfilling, now feels tight, over-curated, performative. You'll notice the shimmer fading from something you swore was sacred, a relationship, a role, a routine, something you called peace that was really a performance. Venus isn't punishing you, she's reflecting you, clearly, blindingly, without mercy. You might find yourself smiling through something that no longer feels real, speaking words you've outgrown, agreeing with a life that feels like someone else's dream. And suddenly, the edges you smoothed over start to crack, not because they were broken, but because you're no longer willing to bend inside them. What you've been sugarcoating becomes bitter. Not all at once, but enough for you to notice that the image doesn't hold like it used to. You're not being shallow, you're being shown. Because when Venus burns this bright, she doesn't just illuminate the beauty, she reveals what's been hidden behind it. And for many, that means facing the truth that something that once held meaning now only holds structure, ritual, reputation. This isn't shame, this is clarity. Venus is asking, are you still calling this beautiful because it is, or because you're afraid of what it means to admit it's not? The danger isn't in the exposure, it's in what you do with it. You don't need to burn it down today, you just need to stop painting it gold. Let it fall if it wants to. Let the light glare off the things you've outgrown, because today is not about pretending, it's about precision. About standing in front of the roles you've been playing and asking if they still reflect who you are when no one is watching. The Venus flare strips the softness, not to hurt you, but to release you. From the smile you've been wearing too long, from the performance of stability, from the idea that beauty must always be preserved, even when it's become a cage. Let it burn. Let the brightness peel back what you've been smoothing over. You'll still be here, but the mask won't be. And that's the point. Because what no longer fits isn't the light. It's the version of you that forgot you were allowed to change. Even when the world still applauds the old script, today the applause fades. But the truth shines, and what you do with it will determine what survives the brightness. 12 o'clock, 3 o'clock p.m., the echo breaks. You'll feel off, but can't name it, like your emotions are out of sync with your thoughts, like your breath is steady, your words are calm, Your actions are functional, yet something inside refuses to settle. Everything looks right, but nothing feels real. You might catch yourself staring into space, scrolling without absorbing, nodding in conversations you've already forgotten. It's not apathy, it's interference, a subtle dissonance between what you're presenting and what you're perceiving. And the mind will want to explain it away. You're just tired, just distracted, just hungry. But it's none of those. This is the moment when something old begins to rot in the background. That almost truth you clung to, the plan that wasn't quite aligned, the role you kept performing out of obligation, the version of peace you've been negotiating with, it's starting to collapse, quietly, from the inside out. It doesn't fall loudly, it erodes, it loses weight, loses conviction. The idea you were once sure of now feels strangely hollow. The commitment you once defended now feels like a performance. And you don't want to face it because you've already told the story too many times. You've already said, "This is who I am." You've already built around it. But it's no longer stable. And that's the discomfort creeping in, not because you did something wrong, but because you're still trying to hold up something that's done serving you. Let it fall apart. Let the unease be sacred. Let the misalignment echo loudly enough that you finally stop tuning it out. You don't need to explain why you're pulling away from something. You don't need a reason that sounds noble. You just need to trust that what once fit no longer does. Today isn't about reaction, it's about recognition. What you feel now is not a glitch, it's a signal, one you've been receiving for a while, but now the volume's up. You can't pretend not to hear it, and you don't need to translate it into action right away. You just need to stop pretending that clarity requires logic. Sometimes the truth doesn't arrive in words, it arrives in discomfort, in the soft unraveling of what no longer carries your frequency. 3:00 p.m., 6:00 p.m., emotional time distortion. The moon touches Neptune, and everything bends. This is the hour when reality begins to stretch at the edges. Time feels strange, emotions rise out of nowhere. You may feel daydreamy, blurry, nostalgic for things you can't even name. A smell, a phrase, a random song can pull you into a memory that never fully happened. You're not losing focus, you're slipping into deeper layers of the self. Emotions echo from timelines you don't remember living. You might feel deeply moved by small things. Someone's eyes, a sound in the distance, the way light falls through a window. Or you might feel overwhelmed for no reason at all. This isn't instability, it's revelation, but it's not the kind that gives you answers. It's the kind that sweeps you into rooms of the soul you forgot existed. Neptune doesn't speak in language, it speaks in vibration. It stirs things that don't belong to your conscious mind but live in your energetic body. Ancestral weight, past life traces, spiritual memory, longings that never found form. And when the moon amplifies it, you don't just feel, you absorb. You might cry, or disassociate, or need to be alone for reasons you can't explain. Trust that need. You're not escaping, you're cleansing. The afternoon asks nothing practical of you. It doesn't want strategy, it wants stillness. Not outer stillness, but inner surrender. The kind that lets emotions rise without naming them. That lets impressions pass through you without trying to understand. This is the soul-sweeping hidden rooms. The ones you've been too busy to visit. The ones you've closed off for the sake of functioning. The ones that hold emotions you didn't even know you still carried. And today, they're being aired out. Not to break you, but to breathe. You don't need to follow every feeling, you just need to let it pass through without locking the door again. You're not here to control the story, you're here to feel where the story lives. And some of it doesn't live in this lifetime. That's why it feels so big and so unexplainable. Let the distortion be holy. Let the tears be unsigned. Let the strange sense of collapse be cleansing, not chaotic. Because in this stretch of the day, the line between memory and message blurs. And the only way through is to stop labeling the emotional wave and start riding it, gently, completely, without resistance. Let the soul finish its sweep. You'll recognize the clarity later, not in your thoughts, but in how much lighter you feel when the weight finally lifts. 6 o'clock, 9 o'clock p.m. Magnetic honesty. It doesn't start with lightning, it starts with a pause, a breath, a stillness that doesn't feel restful but heavy. Something inside you stops pretending. Something hits, not loudly but with undeniable weight. You may not even realize it at first. It's subtle, a thought you've had before, but this time it lands. This time it doesn't float away, it stays. It stares back. It tells you something you've already known but refused to speak aloud. It's the truth you've postponed, delayed, rationalized, and now it no longer cares if you're ready. It just walks into the room wearing your face. It looks like you, sounds like you, moves like the version of you that no longer needs to explain herself. And in this hour, there's no more running. You might be folding laundry, driving home, staring at a dinner you don't want to eat, when suddenly the knowing rises, not in thought, but in vibration. You feel it in your chest, in your stomach, in the way your hands slow down when they touch something that once mattered. This isn't a breakdown, it's a breaking through. Your nervous system finally stops arguing with what's been true for months. Your energy stops trying to maintain the image, and your mind catches up just enough to whisper, "I can't keep doing this." It's not always about dramatic truths. Sometimes it's as simple as, "I'm not in love anymore," or "This job is draining me," or "I don't belong here." And you don't need to act on it, not yet. But you do need to stop hiding from it. Because this is magnetic honesty. Not because it pulls you toward action, but because it refuses to let you lie to yourself any longer. The beauty of this hour is its quiet force. No one else has to know, no one else needs to see, but you feel it. The shift, the gravity, the parting of who you were from who you can't pretend to be anymore. It sits with you as you pretend to scroll. It echoes behind the smile you offer at dinner. It walks next to you in silence as you say, "I'm fine." You're not fine, but you're real, and that's stronger. You might journal, or pray, or sit alone for 20 extra minutes just breathing into the feeling that your life is about to reroute. You don't need a plan, you need space. You don't need permission. You need to stop making excuses for what your soul already decided. Let the mirror stay open a little longer. Let the silence between sentences grow a little wider. You don't have to announce anything tonight, but you do need to admit it to yourself. This truth, this shift, this clarity, that can't be pushed back underground anymore. Because even if you try, it won't stay buried, not after tonight. 9 o'clock, 11 o'clock p.m., the final light. The world is dimming, but Venus still stares from the sky. Her light is sharp now, more like a blade than a glow. You can't ignore her. She doesn't let you forget. This is the final light, not of the day, but of the illusion. All day you've been unraveling, shedding, seeing, but this hour isn't about discovery, it's about what lingers once all the noise settles, what truth remains when the performance fades. This is where everything quiets, and your soul finally has space to speak. But it doesn't speak in words. It speaks in weight, in vibration, in the sudden sting of recognition when you realize what you've been carrying isn't even yours. Or worse, it is yours, but it no longer fits. This is where the truth doesn't ask to be explained, it just wants to be felt. You know exactly what needs to be admitted. It's been circling all day, whispering in the background, standing behind your logic, watching you move in rehearsed steps through choices you no longer believe in. And now, under this sky, in this final light, it arrives, fully, clearly, unapologetically, unlimitedly. You might not cry, you might not speak, but something in you shifts. You give up the effort, you stop trying to convince yourself that it's not that bad, that it's still workable, that it's just a phase. It's not, you know it, and that knowing changes everything. Don't force action tonight. Don't write the message. Don't pack the bag. Don't decide. Just let the knowing breathe. Let the recognition stretch out without demanding that you do anything about it. Yet, sometimes the most powerful form of transformation is stillness. Not inertia, but sacred stillness. The kind that says, I know what I know, and I'm no longer arguing with it. Venus doesn't shine tonight to comfort you. She shines to confront you, to hold you still in the exact moment where your spirit finally says, enough. Not as a cry of pain, but as a quiet, steady release of the weight you've carried just to make things look okay. This isn't about collapse, it's about clarity. You are not unraveling, you are remembering. And in this final hour, the only thing you're being asked to do is stop lying to yourself. Not because you owe anyone the truth, but because you're tired, and because your soul is louder now than your fear. So sit with it, stand in it, let the sky stare back at you, let Venus witness the moment where you choose honesty over habit, where you no longer need to spin, soften, justify. Let the final light land, and when tomorrow begins, let it begin from here, from the version of you that didn't run, didn't shrink, didn't beg for more time. The version that finally stood still and told the truth, even if it was just in silence. This was never about clarity, it was about courage. April 24 wasn't designed to explain everything. It was meant to pull back the curtain you already knew was there. Not to give you answers, but to remove your reasons for pretending you didn't already feel the truth rising inside you. This day didn't arrive to help you make sense of it all. It arrived to help you stop lying to yourself about what you've known for too long. Don't chase closure. Don't wait for someone else to confirm what your body already confirmed before noon. You saw it. You felt it. That was real. What surfaced today wasn't new. It was just no longer willing to be hidden. And if you're ending this day with a strange kind of heaviness, don't mistake it for burden. That's not weight meant to break you. That's the gravity of truth finally finding its rightful place inside your chest. Let it settle, let it live there. Because now that you've faced it, you don't need to carry it like a secret anymore. You just need to walk forward with it, honestly.